Welcome! Grid, Grid 2 and Grid AUTOSPORT. All three of them are a part of the Grid racing games family, previously known as the Race Driver family and the Toka family. Currently we're sitting at the Grid name and things seems to have been quite shaky for the Grid series. Each next game seems to have reached a nice bit of different opinions about them, with me being on the disappointed side. That's the interesting thing about the Grid family, which is also the reason this video exists, that each of them are quite different and they have created pretty contradictory opinions about each next one as they come along. Some of the criticisms seem undeniably objective, while others apply to the personal preference, but nevertheless, Grid seems to have some inconsistent player base, where a good portion of players will not play or even boycott the newer iterations, but at the same time plenty of new players seems to have been attracted. I have to tell you right away, I've spent zillions of hours into the first Grid. I've spent around 20 hours into Grid 2 and even less in Grid AUTOSPORT. The last two iterations did not connect with me, so here I was, thinking to myself, why? So I got all three games on my system and played each of them and compared a bunch of aspects about them. Some things had been clear for me a long time ago, but it seemed like there was more to it. And while doing that, filming it all and creating this script, I reached my final conclusions that I'm pleased to share with you now, so you are more than welcome to stick around. So I decided to do some primitive analytics about all these games. I will be starting with the basic information about them, then I will compare the UI and the menus, compare the core gameplay and physics, and see how the career and progression systems are made and how rewarding they are. Also, I will be looking at the AI, comparing the visual fidelity, aesthetic choices and the damage models, plus a couple of words about the audio design. In the end you will hear my thoughts and conclusions about each game, and unfortunately I will not be able to avoid certain bias. And in the very end I will be doing some speculation about the future of the Grid series. So, Race Driver Grid, or lately just Grid, is a racing game that served as a transition game from the Race Driver name to the Grid name for the series. At the beginning it had both titles in its name, so people would know what they could expect, but the Race Driver part was dropped later down the line. Released in 2008, the game was a huge success and won the BAFTA award in early 2009. This was the first game that I know that would use the flashback system, which would let you rewind a small portion of time to save yourself from a hard or even a fatal crash, and let you continue your race by cheating time. I quickly started to spot this feature in games made by other developers and in almost all the rest of Codemasters games. Funny thing is that the flashback is mentioned only once as a tutorial when you crash for the first time. After that, it's up to you to use it or not. I almost finished the game completely without it the first time because I had forgotten about how it works. It was also the first time I heard the term simcade. The term generally applies to racing games whose driving mechanics and physics feel authentic to real racing, yet still being easy enough to play and appeal to a wider audience by not being a true-to-life simulation. The presentation of the game looks very clean and easy to get used to. The menu is responsive, and there isn't an oversaturation of transitional animations that would waste your time for no reason. If you want to go for a quick race, here you go. If you want to continue your career, choose an event and show them what you're made of. That easy. The goal for you in the Grid career is to do two things. To reach the number 1 spots for you and your team. You do this in two ways, by earning money and by earning experience. These two do not have a linear progression mechanism. By earning a lot of money you may not earn a lot of experience, and vice versa. The career starts with you being a nobody and in need to get your first car ready. To earn the cash you need to be a driver for other teams and work for other people for a little while. When your car is ready, your team is launched into the competition and you are on your own. The cool thing is that later on, at any time, you can switch between racing for your own team or racing for others. You don't have any real initiative to do that most of the time, but it's a great feature to have. During your time becoming the best, you manage your sponsors and see what deals are the best for you. You have to buy all of the vehicles you want to drive and sometimes even manage your cash, because the higher tier vehicles do require quite a bit of it. Also, you will manage your teammate. He is also a crucial part for your team to become the best, because you cannot do it on your own, and you will have to replace a few teammates from time to time. This game is a mixture of racing and team management, which makes it feel more alive and rewarding. The driving physics are well balanced, with you spinning your wheels like crazy when on high RPMs, especially in first two gears, and the cars going out of control if you don't balance how much throttle you are using. Because playing this game with a keyboard for the first year, this game taught me how to quickly tap the acceleration throttle key to balance this. Driving the cars feels authentic. It certainly isn't a simulator, that's for sure, but the game has an understanding about how cars handle in general. You can take turns with the car being very steady yet still in high speed, or you can give it a little more power in turns and go for a power slide, which often enough lets you do amazing kind of overtaking after mastering it. Hard braking creates a lot of understeer, and the use of handbrake is just magical. The handbrake is very responsive yet isn't acting crazy, like in some sort of a burnout game where you do a 180-degree spin when driving in 250 kilometers and stop instantly. With all of this combined, my playing style was a mixture of disciplined racing and the street punk power slider making cool moves. The feel of speed is amazing, regardless of whether you are in a street circuit or in Le Mans. You feel that you are going fast. There are two things that Grid is lacking, and it feels like half of the tracks would benefit from this. There aren't really any rules, and there are no pit stops. You can drive like a complete crazy person with no consequences, so all discussions about simulation falls out of the window. The street type tracks would just be casual tight racing modes, but official large scale tracks lack depth when there are no pit stops. The AI is consistent enough, driving quite disciplined and on higher difficulty levels, creating a great challenge. They are, though, guilty acting sluggish at times when driving in a pack, and braking too much in those instances, but often enough, you have difficulties passing that pack anyway and you are still left behind. It even has random crash and accident events happening to them, creating a great event variety in races, because you never know. A major exception of the AI standards are the drift events. My oh my! The only discipline where I can crank everything up to the maximum is the drift events, because even on the highest difficulty I can outperform the second place by my score being as much as 5 times as high, which is not competitive at all. Luckily, drift takes up around 5% of the whole game. The graphics are amazing for its time. It is 2016 and the game is 8 years old. Though graphics not being tip-top by today's standards, they certainly do hold up. And after hearing the lackings in later games, you will realize by how much. The main criticism would be that the overall visual filter seems a little muddy and lifeless. There are mods that help this, but the base graphics are great, though having a moody visual filter, similarly to how Grand Theft Auto 4 was. The game has a day and night races, and in Le Mans, you experience a live transition between day, night, and back to day lighting. There are hundreds of live people in the crowd reacting to some of the things that you do, for example, crash in a wall. Most of the cars have a unique in-car interface or cockpit. They paid a lot of attention to detail, and the dashboards that do not consist of a single digital screen look amazing. The damage model is one of the best I've ever seen up to this day. It sometimes seems like there's unlimited ways to destroy a vehicle, and in some situations, when watching a slow motion replay, you can even see the car bending in as it hits the wall. The audio in general is good, but there are also elements that are way off. Even though most of the cars have unique sounds, some cars have an annoying engine sound. One that is not even trying to imitate what would it sound like in real life, making me impossible to drive them. Nissan 350Z is one of the guilty ones. Even though the sound changes when you enter the cockpit view, it sounds like there's way too much reverb applied to all of it, and it sounds too spacey and spread it out. There are also live commentators to some of the drift events that are not muted even when you have the speech slider in the audio settings turned down, and they tend to be a little more annoying. The crowd also reacts to your actions in the sound department with cheering to high-octane actions and booing you if you aren't doing anything. Your team manager is also providing you with useful live info during races. Grid 2 came out 5 years after the original. After the massive success of the first game, there was a lot of hype around what the next game would be like. Before the release, there were already plenty of information lying around about what to expect. Grid 2 turned out to be a success for very casual players, but a disaster for many die-hard fans of the original, like myself. So what went wrong? Let's try to find out. Grid 2 is also a racing game about being the best, although the career structure has been completely reworked. Instead of gaining experience, you generated fans, and the game introduced this YouTube-like visual presentation. More fans meant more notoriety, but it did not create a true understanding about the meaning of the fans. Also, the money aspect was removed. You no longer buy your vehicles, you can choose whatever kind of vehicle for the event, and it is just given to you, which seems more like a quick race mode blended together with their career with no cost whatsoever. The sponsors are still present with your ability to choose the best deals for you, but they don't bring you money, they bring you fans. Fans are now a unified currency, having properties of both XP and money, but for no good reason. When talking about the presentation, Grid 2 is heavily based on split-up menu sections, accompanied by 2 long transitions that take up time. It has options that are separated and takes longer to access, and the transitions just adds for the wait. The driving physics are completely different. All driving assists have been removed, with the developer saying that all the cars handle differently, and the player would need to get the grips of each and single one, with no driving aids. I disagree. The driving mechanics are more similar to something that Need for Speed would have in their games of the last 6 to 7 years. The cars seem like driving on a slippery surface all the time. They are extremely loose and slide out very often, even without any handbrake. The initiated power slides feel more fake and do not require any particular effort to control them. Even though some cars are mentioned to be sliding a lot, because of them being a rear-wheel drive, the drivetrain does not have a huge impact on the car's handling. It is quite unified, and you will be doing unintentional power slides again, and again, and again. When it comes to race modes, many of them are back from the original, with a few new ones. Some do not make sense though. There are some events that are purely made for you to show off your overtaking skills of slower vehicles, and it is purely for generating more fans. The idea of the fans is so blindingly over this game, it is impossible to not compare it to some cheesy Need for Speed quotes about generating buzz around you.
Amazing. The buzz here is incredible, man. I couldn't keep track of the amount of camera phones focused on you.
There is a mode that is actually unique, and I play it from time to time, though I gave it a different name. I call it Driving Like a Prick Simulator. The mode originally makes you overtake as many slower driving Bigfoots as possible, creating overtaking combos and generating points for, exactly, getting more fans. It reminds me of all those mindless aggressive drivers we have in our streets, overtaking anyone they can, speeding up where possible and creating dozens of dangerous situations. This is the exact same thing. You are in a race with another car and you are overtaking a bunch of slower cars. When you imagine it like that, it is actually quite fun. The flashback is back and is also redone. Whereas in earlier games, when activating it, you pause the game and you are given a rewinding tool for precise rewinding. In Grid 2, you activate an automatically rewinding slider and you just need to tap the flashback again. It works really great as a fluid transition, but loses precision because of no possibility to rewind back and forth by yourself. But they had worked in an extremely annoying and immersion-breaking function, where the reminder for flashback shows every time the game detects something going wrong. You sliding out, you colliding with someone else, press this button for flashback. That is one of the worst things you could do. Another seemingly good thing that has been implemented, a penalty system. While on the surface it seems like a good thing, the implementation is another worst thing ever. The penalty system is quite primitive, corner cutting. I would not have any problem with that, but the way it's done just reeks of laziness. The game detects you cutting corners and does it quite well, but after doing so, you are automatically slowed down. The game takes away your control for your vehicle for X amount of time. You cannot speed up at all. It is a lazy way to not give you an actual time penalty of 3 seconds, for example. That is all I'm going to say about it, cause anything else would turn into a rant. The AI will give you a challenge. That's an official statement from the devs. I am now using more quotes from the developers since the last 2 games came out in an era where developers were much more actively communicating with their audience, and often enough, saying improper things. The AI is not simply challenging, it is unfair. If the first race seems like a piece of cake, in the second one going in a medium difficulty I did not find a chance to pass most of the cars, since the track was very short and my car was slippery sliding most of the time. many things started to seem are not working together anymore. It is positive that the AI still has random crash events and are not reacting in a monotone way, but the difficulty seems to be acting randomly and they tend to be too hard to keep up with, especially when a race is short. The graphics though are much better. Overall, the base visual fidelity is very good and Codemasters did a great job on optimizing the game as well. At the time I was playing it on my old toaster PC and it handled it quite well. But it's not just about the graphics, is it? I talked about the immersion breaking flashback button appearing every 30 seconds, and now I have finally reached the biggest outcry that the Grid 2 had, which was the biggest immersion breaker for many people, myself included. No cockpit camera. The official statement was that only around 5% of players are using the in-car camera for the Codemasters games, which as far as I've read has not been backed up by any reliable statistics or an actual method of how they actually know that. My favorite camera and the greatest immersion element was removed, so I used the closest I could, the bonnet camera. It helped only partly. I am using a steering wheel, pedals and a shifter. Of course I want to feel like I'm sitting inside a vehicle. The damage model is still good, but seems like it has been nerfed. The cars look amazing and seeing their bodies bent looks very good, but the amount of detail falling off and the ability to bend your car as 5 years prior to this seems worse and looks much more stiff. I again will be making a comparison to Grand Theft Auto. It feels similarly to how GTA 5's damage model is nerfed compared to GTA 4. Codemasters are actually masters of doing great damage visuals, but have not surprised me in a good way for a long time. The sound has been improved, with the car engine sounds being higher quality than before, though the overall sound design sometimes seems too saturated with the crowd, plenty of cars, engines, crashes, tires screeching and even your manager-ish guy talking over everything, and all of this combined being too much. And since there is no in-car camera that potentially would dampen the outside noises, it is also too spacey as in the first game. At least there are settings you can adjust for the audio to make it better for yourself. You no longer have a proper team manager communicating to you, rather some young dude who is trying to sound cool but failing due to delivering some pretty terrible advice.
To win an overtake, you need to overtake. Simple, right?
Grid AUTOSPORT was released extremely quickly after Grid 2, only 13 months later. They had redone plenty of things again, but left some of the problems from Grid 2 present. This game was presented as a true authentic driving experience, and I want you to remember this word. Authentic. The developer really stuffed it in as much as possible with nothing to back it up. The idea behind Grid AUTOSPORT is to race for other teams. Yep, the better you do, the better events you get, but you do not have a personality of your own. You are a hired driver for other teams, and you have to reach the finest events while driving for others. The XP system is back, and you earn it to see how well you do, and you earn XP for each kind of racing events separately. Money is still missing, and you have no cash to spend. The presentation and the menus is a bit cleaner compared to Grid 2. There are still minor time-taking transitions for each menu section you browse, but generally it is decently functional. Grabbing a quick race is not a problem. There are plenty of options to change, and off you go. The same cannot be said about the career mode. The career mode consists of you choosing what class of vehicles you are going to be racing and then picking out the best deal for you. The deals differ in XP and the cars you will be driving. Very often, one event consists of several races with different cars, and you either take the cars presented to you or pick something else. It is so limited, it is maddening. There are too many intro movies trying to convince you how amazing the experience of Grid AUTOSPORT is and what it is about, and it takes too much time listening to this woman explaining it to you. It doesn't seem very authentic if you need to try so hard to convince me. Or maybe you think that the players would not be able to figure stuff out or have as much fun if you don't tell them it is. The gameplay feels stiffer than Grid 2. It would seem natural that if people are complaining about every single vehicle being too drifty, that the issue would get addressed. Though, it still feels off. For a racing game, the majority of time should be spent at refining the driving physics. So Autosport has stiffer handling, though essentially you do not feel your vehicle at all. They have kind of tried to make it a hybrid between the first two games, because as far as I understand, in 13 months they could not create a completely new driving model. I may be wrong though. So they took what Grid 2 had and reworked that. There is a huge disconnection with the actual speed and what you see on the screen. You do not feel your vehicle's grip at all. The only way I could feel any connection to the vehicles and the road and drive in this game was with my G27. The usage of the shifter helped to feel the cars a little bit more, since I was the one shifting gears, but even the force feedback still could not completely save the rushed physics and disconnection to the road. The flashback is still here, and they also have not removed the speed slowdown penalty for cutting corners. I mean, come on people, are you serious? This is so authentic that if I break the rules, my control over the vehicle is taken away. Unfortunately, I have to repeat myself. Time penalties. You have a teammate in each race and you can tell them how to manage their positions, to try and take over or to defend. I found this to be completely useless and still work as random as it possibly can. When I said defend, most of the time they lost their positions almost immediately. The AI is something. I had trouble feeling my vehicle, and on top of that, the AI is pretty challenging. If you manage to memorize how your car drives, then do not confuse that with understanding how it drives, you can beat them. But the AI also has an issue that they crash into you randomly, which is a race breaker. That makes the AI bad in general. The graphics are slightly better than Grid 2. Not much that can be said here. The crashing is still not as good as the very first game and it feels too stiff. Talking about authenticity, again. If Grid 2 had no cockpit camera because almost nobody was using them anyway, AUTOSPORT has a cockpit camera again, because I vaguely quote the developers that it was a no-brainer to include it in a game like this. Okay. With a major hiccup though, it is a blurry, dark dashboard where you can barely distinguish the wheel from anything else. There are no actual dashboard elements or speedometer or anything. There is a mod that takes the blur away, and one of the dashboards I saw was a horribly rendered dashboard from an old Codemasters game. And all of this cost full price. It costs full price with the devs laughing straight in your face. The sound is good. The cars don't have an extremely unique engine sounds, but they get the job done. The sounds are a little more low profile, and if you are using the interior camera, there isn't as much noises blasting in your ears. So, this is my take on the differences between all these titles, with my personal criticisms and praises for all of them. So what's next? It has been 2 years and no new announcements about the future of Grid have been made yet. This would make one think that they are completely reworking and trying to figure out what has worked and what hasn't. But I'm skeptical, and whatever they come up with, and I'm sure that they will, it may go either way. What could Codemasters be doing with Grid? Their mind has changed several times to what works for these games. If anyone would care to take my advice, if another Grid is coming, Codemasters, start with creating a proper career mode, with you managing yourself and your team. Make us earn money and plan how to spend it. Make us feel connected to the events, the world, the team, the racing. Forget all the cheesy, currently trendy music and YouTube nonsense and terrible jokes. Oh, you haven't done those yet. Do a pure racing game in its own right. You know what works physics-wise. What's stopping you from doing it again? If you want to penalize us in a proper manner. You are the ones that own the license to Formula 1. Take some ideas from there. No buzzwords, no vague and misleading promises, just fun and immersive racing. You want to make something in the lines of Grid 2? Go for it. Make a spin-off for it or create a completely new title. Don't mix and match actual real authenticity with casual new age drifty sliding games. Do both in separate titles. It has been extremely shaky for this franchise in the last few releases. I just hope that some positive things come up in the future. It doesn't even have to be soon. Take as much time as you need. They already managed to please plenty of rally heads with the latest dirt. We'll just have to wait and see and hope for the best.